Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for logging on to our webinar with sales tax and EIN applications. Tonight, we have Ms. Latasha Bryan, a CPA, presenting for you. My name is Jennifer Kenny. I'm a project coordinator at the Suffolk County Community College Entrepreneurial Assistance Center. Behind the scenes, we have Mr. Jay, who deals with all our technology. He's also amazing. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. Use the Q&A, or you can raise your hand. That way we can help you where your questions arise. Ms. Latasha, whenever you are ready, you can go ahead and take over.
You're mute. You're mute.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer, for that introduction. I appreciate your kindness and definitely your knowledge yourself, as well as everyone within your office. So thank you for tonight, all of your help tonight in advance. Welcome, everyone. Tonight we will be doing applications, walkthrough applications when it comes to the EIN and sales tax. Those two items are two separate items, but two items that can feel difficult. So my hope and my desire is that by the end of this class, you would understand the application and be able to complete the application on your own. I will include my information at the end just in case you do have questions or if you are in need of accounting services. So just a little bit about myself. My name is Latasha Bryan. I'm a certified public accountant, and I graduated with my Bachelor of Arts in Accounting in 2003. Shortly after graduating from college, I obtained my license in Certified Public Accountancy, and I've been practicing in public accounting ever since then. I work at Bloomsholm CPAs, which is a full-service CPA firm. There we can help you with accounting, auditing, tax, and business advisory services. We take care and we help people who have large businesses, small businesses, no business is too small and no business is too large for us. We do take care of businesses within various industries. And within those industries, I help manage and help with bookkeeping or CFO type services. I can help you build, protect, and transition your wealth. I just want to say that accounting can definitely appear to be hard, and it's something that we have invested our time in learning how to do it. Your business idea is your business idea. Our desire is that you take your business idea and bring it to light, and we can take care of the rest of it as far as accounting is concerned. So when I say take care of it, we are the business advisory service for a lot of different companies, and we would love to do that for you. Also, I was a dedicated member of a treasurer on the board of directors. I was there and I helped manage, along with the rest of the members on the board, 80 units. While I was on the board, I had the privilege or not non-privilege to find out that our property manager, was dipping into the books in ways that he should not have. That was a different side of accounting for me, but definitely added to my experiences. I also own My Time Out, which sets out to remind you to take a break from life as a whole, because it definitely can get hard to juggle and balance everything. So the intention with My Time Out is to just take a moment to step back for self-care, to reset, recharge, and refresh. And I'm very involved in my community as well. So that's a little bit about me. And we all are here, hopefully, for the same reason, to learn about the application walkthroughs in regards to EINs and sales tax returns. We have a number of people on our Zoom tonight, and hopefully as well on live. If you would like to share about your business idea, please type it in the chat, and I'll be able to read that for you. We definitely want to promote, if we can, any businesses that are in operation and are already off of the ground. Okay. So application walkthroughs in regards to EINs and sales tax. One video, I always like to play this video for a lot of the presentations that I do. It definitely sets the groundwork. So let's take a look at this video.
See this building we're in. I love architecture, and I love buildings. But this building we're in is incredible, isn't it? Because we're all in it, and none of us here have a doubt of mind that it will hold us safely. Yeah, none of us here have thought about whether or not the things above us could collapse on our heads. The reason is because the foundation of this building is so well set. So the most important part of the building is the part of the building we don't see. That's so powerful. I'm going to let you guys think about it for like 2 minutes. I'm just going to let you guys I'm going to let you marinate in my wisdom. No, I'm joking. So when you build your business, the most important parts of building your business are the parts nobody sees. Nobody sees. I can tell you now that probably what I spend 80% of my time doing is the stuff you guys don't know about. It's completely quiet. And it's the stuff you'll probably never know about. But without that stuff, I can't do the magic. The magic can't happen, right? So where a lot of us lose it in that first 999 days, and I want you to remember it, is you got to focus on building your foundation. That foundation is critical. Foundation is critical. Okay. Without it, it doesn't matter how nice that building is, it'll fall. When the rains come, it will fall. And so for each of us as entrepreneurs, that foundation is critical. And that foundation starts with you, it starts here. You can't build it unless you build you. Yeah?
So the premise of that video is to make sure that your business foundation is solid. I've done another class with the Entrepreneurial Assistance Center, and it was in regards to understanding financial statements. Included in there, I gave a little blurb on making sure that your business foundation is solid. I recommend that you go back there and watch that video if you can. If not, just a tad bit about business foundations. Just the fact that you guys are here tonight with the Suffolk County Community College Entrepreneurial Assistance Center and dealing with Daphne Gordon as well as Jennifer and everyone else that's within the office. You are in the process of trying to get your business foundation underway. It certainly is a hard task to start with a business idea and then take that point and go try to bring it to fruition, bring it to life. It's a hard task to do. But if you take the steps to make sure that your foundation is solid, then you'll be able to take that foundation and build, okay? So if anyone would like to share, if you'd have that, we have the opportunity now, if you'd like to share about your business, please unmute and state something about your business or your business idea if you are not already in operation. Okay.
Hello, my name is Bridget, and I operate a publishing company called Creative Flows LLC here in New York State. It is in its infancy, and I'm still learning a couple of things. One of the main things that brought me on here tonight is because I want to have this question settled. When you're completely operating online with your sales, do you still need a certificate of authority from the state of New York? If you're not doing any in-person sales, do you need a certificate of authority?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And I encourage you to stick around also just to hear the rest of the presentation. I know that was your question. The odd thing about sales tax is that, and it's sales tax in New York State, you know, during the pandemic, it was the onset of a lot of different types of businesses, different businesses as far as industries were concerned. But
Yes.
at the same point, a lot of people started at home. They started online. They were just operating in not a brick and mortar type of business.
Right.
New York State still views that as a business, and you still have to have a certificate of authority. And it's supposed to be posted, even though it's your home office, it's still supposed to be available, that certificate. So you
Okay.
should get that certificate.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep. And congratulations to you and your business idea. Hopefully you're able to take it to where you'd like to take it.
I
Okay,
hope so too. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Latasha, we have one in the Q&A. So
Okay.
Dr. Lorraine Richardson McCrae says, I just switched from a sole proprietorship to an S Corp. What advice or suggestions do you have for me? I just got my Corp kit.
Okay, so Dr. Lorraine, I will make a note of your question, but I want to hold off on it because it is a bit off topic, but it is a good topic to address. I wanted to address that topic, but for the people who did come to talk about the EIN and sales tax, I want to address that. Okay. All right. So let's move forward.
See this building we're in. I love.
So the topics that we will be discussing today are the who, what, when, why, who, what, when, where, why, and hows about EINs and sales tax. Totally two different topics, as I brought up earlier. However, we definitely want to understand the difference between the two and what matters, how those two items matter to our business. So we had a person interject and tell us a bit about why they were here, and they did have a question about sales tax. But what are the topics that relate to you? How do these topics relate to your business? So you might have come onto this webinar thinking, I sell merchandise and this topic relates to me. You may be thinking sales tax and EINs, both of those items are unnecessary documents, but you're still here. You also can be thinking, a customer asked me about an EIN, or someone asked me about an EIN, or even sales tax. Or maybe you're just unsure. You saw the topic and you said, you know what, I just want to go and see what the information is about. In any of these cases, as well as any cases that were not stated, I welcome you here. So let's get started with EIN. We will start with that topic first. Now, when it comes to EINs, what is an EIN? An EIN stands for Employer Identification Number, also known as a federal tax identification number. It also is a unique 9-digit number used to identify a business entity, and it is issued by the Internal Revenue Service. So this number is essentially the business's social security number. It is to be protected as though it is a social security number. So if you have access to secure email or a portal of some sort, I'd recommend that you use that in order to transmit to pass documents that have your EIN number on to others. Make sure you use some sort of a secure passageway in order to hand it over. Now, although the EIN, or the Employer Identification Number, is issued by the Internal Revenue Service, which is the IRS on the federal level, this EIN is used by multiple jurisdictions. So in regards to jurisdictions, what does that mean? So usually states are jurisdictions, the New York State, as well as the IRS, New Jersey, a number of states, as well as localities, because we have New York City, which is in New York State. All of those items, all of those jurisdictions usually want your EIN. They may ask you for a separate number, or they may request that you set up a state ID number with them also, but everything usually starts with the EIN. That is what an EIN is. So the question may be, well, why do I need to obtain an EIN for my business? What is the purpose? So it is good for identity protection, to apply for business licenses, to separate your business and personal finances, as well as income and expenses, to establish business credit, and to become an employer. So just to break down those 5 items, as far as identity protection is concerned, if you do not have a business and if you have a business and you do not have an EIN and you enter into a contract with your business's name, there may be a request for an identification number. So just today, I have a realty company in which one of the managers asked me to complete a W-9 for them. W-9 is a form that you typically fill out with your name, the business's name, and the type of business, as well as the EIN or social security number. If someone asks you for a W-9, the same way that this client of mine, someone asked him for it, if the business didn't have an EIN, he would have to list one of the owner's social security numbers. So in order to avoid any sort of fraud when it comes to your personal social security number, I would recommend an EIN. Applying for business licenses, are various numbers of licenses, at least within New York State, that require you to apply for them. In order to apply, you do need an EIN. Separation of business and personal finances is huge. That is the biggest area. That's my wheelhouse. And I push this for every single business owner to separate your business and your personal finances. There are so many pluses for doing that, so many check marks. I couldn't highlight it enough. You need to separate your business and personal finances for a number of reasons. A few reasons include if you are audited personally, if the IRS or New York State says we want to review your tax return, or we want to review your books, and they ask you for, as far as going as asking for bank statements, there may be transactions in your personal account that relate to your business. And because it's not separate, the IRS or whoever is auditing you might think, well, all of this should be one. The business should be with personal, and they might tax you as though it's all one, and that can go vice versa. Also, if you're sued, if you have this business and you're running it through your personal expenses, if your business is sued and it ends up again where the business, you have to provide bank statements or any information, it might end up being, if your business is not a separate entity and you have not separated your finances, separate business and personal, it might turn out that the person that sued you can end up getting some of your personal funds, because there's no way for there's no separation. So I always encourage that. But in order to separate your business and personal finances, you'll need an EIN to go to the bank and open up your account. They typically ask you when you go to the bank for your EIN, as well as the operating agreement or the article of the articles of incorporation. They'll ask you for those items, and depending on the bank, they might ask for more. But that's a big one as to why you should get an EIN. Just as though just thinking of the EIN as a social security number, your EIN or the business's EIN can gain business credit. So if you open up this business checking account with your EIN, you can also open up a business credit card, and you should 100% charge all of your business charges, onto your business credit card. And always make sure that you pay that business credit card off in full before the due date. So only charge what you can pay, what the business can pay the following month on the credit card, but always pay timely. That's the main thing, is building that business credit, same way that you would build personal credit. And also to become an employer. Now, I know becoming an employer may seem far from people who are just at the business idea level, but ultimately, if you want to become an employer, you'll need that EIN so that you can file payroll tax returns and make payroll tax payments. All right, and those are the reasons why we should have an EIN. Now, who can apply for an EIN? There are two parties essentially that can apply for an EIN. The first is a responsible party. And this is a word for word definition, according to the IRS, who the responsible parties are. A natural person that controls, manages, or directs the applicant entity and the disposition of its funds and assets. So just as an example, talking about the realty client that I had today, the manager that is managing these properties, he would be considered the responsible party. When it comes to the third party designee, the third party designee represents the applicant and is authorized to answer questions on the behalf of the applicant. So I would be considered a third party designee because I have no place in controlling any of my clients' businesses, managing or directing. I'm just essentially a third party on the outside. I obtain the information and I'm just doing it on the behalf of the business. Those are the two types of people, two types of groups that can apply for an EIN. Now, when should I apply for an EIN? It can be various times. It could be at the start of a business. It could be at the end of the business. Now, these are just points that I'm throwing out there. Is there anyone that can just give a guess, or even if you know for sure, when should you apply for an EIN? Just unmute yourself and let's hear your thoughts. Garcia, yes, please unmute.
Yes, good afternoon. It's so funny that you're talking about W-9 tonight, because I just had to fill out one for an insurance company because I rent apartments to them.
Okay.
I had to do it and the lady was like, oh, make sure you put your social. I said, no, I have an EIN number for my management company. So she was like, oh, you do? I said, yes, I do. Because identity theft is so rampant out here. But I think you should apply for an EIN number as soon as you decide that you would like to go into business.
Awesome. Listen, you're perfect timing tonight, I have to say, because you are a living proof of why we needed EIN. You would have had to list your social security number on that form, and you don't know how many hands are going to touch that paper. And you want to trust who you provide your forms to, but at the same time, if you can protect your identity as much as you can, then do that by applying for an EIN. So you are correct, Garcia. That definitely is a time that's in the beginning is the time that you should apply for an EIN. I will list a few items that I believe are within the timeline that you should apply, but there certainly are others. So you should apply for an EIN before you hire employees. We don't want to start hiring employees and then you get to the point where you have to file sales tax, or you have to file payroll tax returns and you don't have your EIN and you're kind of like backtracking. Or when it's time to make a payment for your employees on the behalf of your employees, then you have to backtrack. Okay, so we want to do it before we hire employees. We want to do it before we sell merchandise. Because essentially, once you start selling merchandise, your business is in operation. You are out there selling, collecting, hopefully making collections for your merchandise. And just make sure that you have your EIN before you do that. Before you provide services. So you might necessarily have a business that isn't selling any merchandise, but you are providing a service. There was a person that was in one of the classes that I did at EAC in person, and she spoke of her daughter and herself, and her daughter was doing accounting services and she was doing organization services. So before you get started with those items, you want to get that EIN, especially if they ask you for a W-9. Before you make contractual commitments. So earlier I stated also, if you have a great product, if it's a product or a service, and you have a customer, and the customer says, great, I want to enter a contract with you. Can you give us 50 cupcakes every day? Just sign this contract that you'll provide us with the cupcakes, and then we'll move forward. Before you get into that contract, make sure that you have your EIN, because you don't want to be attached to that personally, that agreement personally. All right, so that's before, but you should always apply for the EIN after you have created your business plan. Jennifer and everyone at the Entrepreneurial Center, Assistance Center, can help you. I'm sure there's specific titles. Veroline is there. She's amazing also. But there are specific titles for certain people in the office, but they can help you, either direct you towards a business plan or help you with a business plan. Don't get the EIN until you have your business plan in place, because it's possible that you want to change. Maybe you don't really want to go into business, and you're just thinking up ideas, but it's not something that you want to actually pursue. So don't get the EIN and then the IRS is looking for a tax return from you. Let's make sure that this is something that you'd like to pursue. Establish a business idea. So we want to establish our business idea, which then will turn into your business plan. But make sure you have your business idea, which goes back to that solid foundation. And appoint a responsible party. So you may be your business's a responsible party, but if there are a number of people who are involved in your business, make sure that whoever is going to be the responsible party knows that they are the responsible party and that you all are in agreement. You don't want to put yourself down as a responsible party, and then there's someone else who's involved in the business and they are offended in some way, or they were expecting to be that person, then it can create conflict. So it's always best to appoint that person, have that discussion, but have the discussion and then apply for the EIN. Verify your mailing address. So a part of the application, the EIN application, is the mailing address. It'll ask you for a number of items, the business's name, but the mailing address matters because there's a possibility that you don't want to use your personal mailing address. A lot of what happens with your business information is it could become public. Do you want your personal address to be listed as the public address for this business? So you might want to set up an EIN. You might want to set up a PO box, or there's virtual addresses that you can even acquire, and that virtual address will be the place that your mail will go to. So just establish that address. You don't want to start the application and then have to stop and start to research, well, what do I want to use as my mailing address? There's also, in addition to the virtual addresses, you can have an agent represent you and your place of business, and just that agent can be the address or the mailing address for your business. Where can I apply for an EIN? So in regards to an EIN, there are different methods of filing. There's mailing, there's faxing, and there's doing it online. Certainly, all three methods are methods that you can use. People call mail snail mail. I'm not sure, as far as faxes are concerned, it is virtual more than mailing. It's considered a little bit faster, but it's still slower than online. So the recommended way that the IRS would like you to follow would be online. They like when you do it online. You fill out the application directly. If you type in the error, unfortunately, then it will show up on the screen. But the good thing is, there at the end there's a preview, and you can look through and say, okay, I misspelled that wrong, let me go back. If you mail in the application, there's a possibility that if you write it in, they may look at it differently and type it in not according to the way that you want it to be. or maybe it's just typed in incorrectly within their file. So you also have more control of completing your EIN application when you do it online. So website obviously is the most recommended way that they will want you to do it online. And this is the website. It's www.irs.gov, and then you click on apply for an identification number. It definitely is something that is popular. A lot of people go to the IRS's website in order to apply for an EIN. So it's right on the main screen. You don't have to look all around for it. It's right there. Okay. So now let's get into what the EIN application looks like. When you go onto that website, you will automatically see a screen, and that screen will then prompt you to go through all of these questions. So the first question, it'll go from 1 all the way down to the bottom. I am not going to go onto the IRS's website and actually apply for an EIN for our purposes. So what I'm going to do is show you what the process and the questions that you will see as you click through. So when you go onto the website, you're not going to see this whole form, but you'll see one question or a couple of questions at a time. And then at the end, when you have the opportunity to review all of your information, then you'll see something similar to this. But in the background, this is the form SS-4. That's the form that you are completing. All right. So let's get into this form. I'm going to break it down into different sections, and we'll go over each of the lines and determine if we have the information that we need to complete this form. So lines 1 through 8C represent the basic business, the basic information in regards to the business. So your legal name of the business or your individual name, the trade name, this can be different than your legal name. And typically the executor, administrator, trustee, this does not usually apply for businesses. This is more along the lines of a trust or an estate. And one thing I do want to make mention is that this obtaining an EIN or completing the SS-4, this document is not only for businesses, it's not only for corporations, it's not only for partnerships, it's extended beyond those two. It's also for trusts, estates, churches, and government agencies, all of these as noted above. The mailing address, you'll need the street address. If that is different than the mailing address, you'll have to include the full area as well as the county and state where the primary business is located. So for a lot of us, a lot of people who have online businesses, you work from home, you don't have a brick and mortar, you have established your place of business as where you are located. You don't have to put your entire address, your entire personal address, but if you are located, if your business was located in Suffolk County, then you would list Suffolk County, New York. So it doesn't get too personal, but we do have to list where the business is located here. And this is the part about the responsible party. You have to list the responsible party's name and also their social security number, their identification tax number, or their EIN. So the responsible party sometimes can be someone who, we went over responsible parties, but it can also be another business. So it can have an EIN. You can list an EIN here. Is this application for an LLC? If so, you check yes. Or if you have to also list the number of the LLC members. And if the business, if it's an LLC, if it was listed within the United States. Usually, I just want to go back up to clarify this responsible party portion. when I said it could be another business. Sometimes there are businesses that own businesses, and then the government really looks at them kind of like one. That's a tax matter that we can maybe get into more detail, that that's something that applies to you. But generally, this EIN and the identification or social security number is just you as an individual person. So lines 9A through 10. This section, the 9A section, you have to list your type of entity. So when it comes to type of entity, we need to know before we fill out the application what type of entity we are. And this is typically covered in the business plan. You can, there's an entity section of the business plan where we talk about what type of entity your business is. Okay, so if you are a partnership, you would check that, a corporation, any of these items, you would select your box. I am doing an in-person class on Saturday in regards to business structures. So if you have questions, specific questions about what is a partnership or what is a corporation, you can meet me at that class on Saturday. If you have a corporation, you do have to name the state or the foreign country here on the application, as well as your reason for applying. The most popular box is that you started a new business. That's just basically your reason for getting the EIN. It can be other reasons as listed here. You purchased a going business, that happens sometimes as well, or you changed your business type. So Dr. Lorraine Richardson, I'll get to your question a little bit more detail later, but you switched from a sole proprietorship to an S Corp. As far as you're concerned, your sole proprietorship was probably, it was just your social security number. So when you are applying for an EIN, you're changing your business type, okay? You would select changed type of organization, and then you can list it here. Depending on, and we can, depending on your type of business, I don't want to get too detailed and confuse anyone, and not just go into an area that just spirals a little bit off of topic, even if no one gets confused. I just want you to know that you can, that this is the section you would type change type of organization. Alrighty. And then your business date. So when did you acquire, or when did you start this business? What are the highest number of employees that you expect within the next 12 months? Now this number 13 and 13, 14, and 15. These questions, you should certainly try to put down your best estimate of number to answer the question. So in number 13, it says highest number of employees. Your highest number of employees expected in the next 12 months. If you put 50 employees here, then the IRS is going to look for a payroll tax return that contains 50 employees. If you don't file your payroll tax return, there's a very high chance that the IRS is going to come to you or send a letter and state that you owe payroll taxes for 50 people, 50 employees, and they might estimate what they think the wages will be. You do not want the IRS to estimate anything when it comes to you. You want to give them actual figures, because typically their estimate is a lot larger than what your actual figure is. So make sure you put your best estimate when it comes to number of employees. As far as your employment tax liability, now the employment tax liability, it's asking you how much do you expect? Do you think it's going to be greater or less than $1,000? This is important also, because if you check the box and say yes, I'm expecting it to be less, or you're expecting it to be more. If you answer this question in an area that is not something that you really expect, the IRS again is going to estimate what they think the figures would be, and you'll have to prove otherwise to them. First date of wages. So I had a client who filled out this form and they listed the first date of wages, let's say as January 1st, 2023. But they did not have actual wages until January 1st, 2024. So that was a whole year, whole four quarters of payroll tax returns that needed to be filed because she listed the wages as starting January 1st, 2023. The IRS is going to look for a payroll tax return based on the start date that you list here. My desire for you is that you do not generate any additional paperwork that you don't need to prepare. If you don't need to prepare a payroll tax return or you don't have to pay someone to do that, then you don't want to put yourself in a position where the IRS is looking for it. So make sure you have the actual first date that you think you'll pay your employees. All right. Next, we have the principal activity of your business. So in this section, you check the box that's applicable to you. There's various items, and if you see that there's something in here that you don't quite fall into any of these categories, then you would select other and specify. This section, it is a general question, but the IRS can generate additional documentation. This is one of those questions where the information that you provide, it can be held against you, or it'll just be used, it could be used for future correspondence. So this question, they may just dig a little deeper and say that you are supposed to collect sales tax, or you're supposed to obtain a license. It's just it's kind of boxing you into a specific industry. So make sure you select your proper industry. Indicate your principal line of merchandise sold, specific construction work done, products produced, or services provided. So you provide a little bit of a description of your business. Line 16 speaks of the general industry, but 17 gives you the opportunity to just list a little bit more about your business. And 18 has the applicant entity shown on line 1 ever applied or received an EIN. So the box is all dependent on if you've done if this applies to you or not. This is definitely one of those if applicable boxes. And does anyone have any questions so far? Okay. How can I help you? Oops, I'm sorry. I think you're muted.
Gracia, do you have a question? Your hand is raised.
Yes, am I unmute?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was talking and didn't realize it wasn't.
That's okay.
You said that if we if for a business, suppose we apply for an EIN prematurely for something that we want to do. Say, for example, we want to do real estate.
Okay.
But then we change it. We as we go and we are receiving counseling from the entrepreneurial center, and you want to say you want to go into household where you want to cleaning.
Okay.
Can you change that name, or do you have to apply for a total different EIN number? And do you have to file payroll taxes for that EIN number, even though you were not using it?
So on the original application, did you list that you had a start date for employees?
No.
Okay, so then you don't have to file payroll tax returns. The reason I had brought up payroll tax, and I think this is what you're referring to, first date of wages.
Yes.
So if you list on this line that you're gonna have your first date of wages January 1st, 2024, then the IRS is going to start looking for the tax return related to these employees from January 1st, 2024. But if you don't list anything here, then there's no requirement. There's no they're not looking for an IRS form for you for payroll. So that's the payroll question. You don't have to file any payroll tax returns if you didn't enter on the form that you would have employees. Now, changing the business type, there's a separate, and I'll try to get it for you while we're on, but there's a separate way to handle it when you have a, I'm just trying to look it up. I'll try to find it before the end of the class. But if you do sign up for an EIN for real estate and then you change it to something else, you have to inform the IRS that you're changing your type of business. Is the name going to stay the same, or is it just everything's going to be new?
Well, just a part of the name, like a partial name change.
Okay, so then you would have to fill out multiple forms. You'd have to first let them know that, yes, I have it. You'll first have to let them know that you're changing your type of, like, what the principal activity of the business is. So that's within here. And then you'll also have to do a change of business name. If the address is the same, you should be fine.
So, but can you, say, for example, can you do it wherein that you just do away with the business and just start a new one?
Yes, absolutely.
So
Yep.
is that the easiest way to do it, or to completely change it?
So when you have done no filings with the old one, with the stuff.
No, I have not. I have not used it. I just filed it and I was going through the business plan, and then I was encouraged not to go that route, to do something else. So that is why I'm asking you. That is the reason why I'm taking this class.
So what you can do is you can transfer or you can return or suspend your existing EIN number. So, and then just start fresh when you're ready. I'm going to try to look it up for you before the end of the class, but it's essentially you have to write a letter to the IRS saying that I don't want to use this EIN number. I've decided, and you provide your reasoning, a short reasoning why I don't plan on using this business. You don't have to tell them that you're starting a new business. You could just say that I started this business and I've decided not to use it and I want to resign or revoke my EIN. I'll look for the information for you and then include it in the chat.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. So the last part of the form that you would complete online is in regards to the third-party designee, which I would be a third-party designee if you had me complete this form, and I would just list all of my information on this form. Okay, and that's essentially the form. That's everything that you do online that relates to your, I'm sorry, I actually found the information for you, Gracia. So I'm just gonna put it in the chat now. I'll do it to everyone. So this is the link. You can click on that link and it will tell you how to cancel your EIN. Okay, so that is the form. That's everything that you do online when it comes to obtaining your EIN. If we would have done this together, then we would have been successful in getting our EIN. So congratulations to you. We walked through the application in regards to the EIN, and we are done with our application. So once we're done with the application, my next question will be, well, how long is it going to be before I receive this EIN number? Do I have to, are they going to mail it to me? Because your main purpose in filling out this application is to get the number. So when am I getting my number? So if you do it online, you get the number instantly. You review you type in all the information, then you review the last page. It's an application. You review your application, make sure that the spelling is correct, because you don't want to have to go back and contact the IRS and say that you misspelled something. Just complete it, review it, click submit, and then you get your number right away. You can print out that letter, make sure you safeguard it, put it in a safe place. If you have a folder on your computer that you can password protect, I'd recommend you do that. You can also put it in a paper folder if you'd like, and they do send you a paper letter as well, just outlining everything that relates to your EIN. It's not going to be the full application. It's just going to list your business name, the mailing address that you listed on your application. That's the location that the letter would be mailed to, and it'll have a blurb about an EIN, and that's it. But if you want to retain all the information that you put on the application, then you'll have to print out the application, that review form, print that out. I do recommend that you print that out. So if there's ever a question of what did you list, you have it as your records, but the IRS is not going to mail that document to you. Okay, so we have completed our EIN application. We received our EIN, our actual EIN. We are taking our business to the next level, our business idea to the next level, and we are ready to move forward and to make it happen. It is rough to be a business owner. Yes, it is. But again, if you have your solid business foundation, you work with everyone at EAC and take the advice. Gracia, you're taking advice from the experts there, and you can move forward with your business idea, feeling more confident that you have what you need to get going. All right. Now we are ready to move to the second portion of our topics. We can check our box for EINs. We've gone over EINs. We will receive our EIN instantly if we do it online. And now the second portion of our time together will be about sales tax. So when it comes to sales tax, how does sales tax collection work? Okay. Now, when you think about sales tax, we all have come into... Yes, okay. Yes, the link was posted to everyone. I just saw there's a Q&A in there. I can also send it to you directly, but it should be within the main area. I created a corporation years ago in 2016, but my accountant just told me they never dissolved it. What should I do? Let it be alone, or should I close it? You should close it, because as far as the IRS is concerned, this business is still existing. I'm actually surprised that they didn't send you any letter or anything to go to request any documentation in regards to this, because 2016 was a bit ago. But I do recommend that you would dissolve it, and you can do it by just following that link that I just sent. Okay, and I'll send that to you directly. They told me that I might have penalties, so to leave it alone. Well, listen, I definitely don't want to go against what your accountant said, especially because they have more information. Your accountant might have received those letters, or maybe there was just more information that I'm unaware of. So I would recommend that you speak to your accountant again, and you can bring this up to them. I'm sure they're aware of it, but heed to the personal advice for your personal business. You're welcome, Camilla. Okay, so how does sales tax collection work? So when it comes to sales tax, we all have come in contact with sales tax. It's everywhere. It's within any purchase that you make, a lot of purchases that you make. If you buy clothing over a certain amount, if you buy food, if you buy a car, it's everywhere. And it certainly is one of New York State's biggest ways, largest ways to collect tax, to collect funds. When it comes to sales tax for a business, because we've all seen it, where you've had to pay the sales tax to a business, but as a business owner, what does it mean for me? You are the middleman. Those arrows are pointing to you. You are the middle guy when it comes to sales tax. The guy on the left of the guy in the middle, he essentially, let's say, is the customer. So as the customer, he's going to pay you, the middleman, sales tax. Sales tax is not my money as a business owner. It's not your money as a business owner. It is the guy to the right. It is the IRS. He represents the IRS. And we are just the flow through. We take the money from the customer, hold it, and then we send it over to the government. Do not spend your sales tax collection funds that you take from the customer, because again, it's a debt. We owe the IRS for sales tax collected from the customer. So that, as a business owner, you're just in the middle, moving the money from one hand to the next. All right. And there you are the middleman. Okay. So when it comes to how does sales tax collection work, again, you are the middleman, and it starts from the bottom and it works itself up. We make a sale, we collect the sales tax, we list the sales tax amount separate from the sale amount. What does that mean? If we go to buy clothes from Macy's, you typically will see your coat. Let's say we bought a coat. Actually, now we're in the summertime, so let's think of something a little bit cooler. We went and we bought some shorts, because we definitely need shorts in this type of weather, which I'm okay with. But we bought some shorts, and those shorts are listed. You always see on the receipt, your dollar amount for what you paid for the shorts, and then the total. And then below the total is the sales tax. And then below that is the total of your shorts and all your clothing plus sales tax. That's how much you pay. But if you, as a business owner, are collecting sales tax, always make sure that it's listed separately from the amount of your sale. Then you know, and the government knows, and the customer knows what is for sales tax and what belongs to you. You keep your sale amount the same way that Macy's is going to keep the amount that we pay for shorts, right? Then once Macy's, or once we collect the sales tax on behalf of the government, you really should take that money and deposit it into a bank account designated just for sales tax. So earlier we talked about why you should get an EIN. You should get an EIN so you can open up a bank account to keep your business expenses separate from your personal expenses. But you also should open up a second bank account in order to separate your business sales from your sales tax. If you do it this way, when it comes time to give the money to the IRS, or give the money to New York State, then you can easily take the money out of the separate bank account and just give it to them. It's not a question of where am I going to get this money from or how much should I pay them. We are separating our sales tax collected from our main money so that we can pay it out when it's time. Okay. And I just want to note that when it comes to sales tax, this conversation that we're having in regards to sales tax, it's all about New York State sales tax. We are always in this session going to talk about New York State sales tax. There's sales tax that's related to New Jersey, to California, to a lot of various jurisdictions. When it comes to California, it can be a very big headache. I'm only saying that because I've prepared it, and it's just, there's jurisdictions, there's localities, and there's districts. There's a lot when it comes to California. But for New York State purposes, this is all we're talking about, New York State, and we'll add in also New York City since that's pretty close also. We did have a question. Is sales tax applied to services, physical goods, or both? So it's when it comes to sales tax, there's a listing, and I'll try to find that listing for you before we end the session. Let me just make a note of it. But there's a listing of what is considered taxable and what's not considered taxable. Believe it or not, there are some services that are taxable, not many, but there are a listing of services and products that are not taxable. When it comes to products, it gets very technical. When it comes to New York State, if the item is baked on premises, if it's not baked on premises, it just gets very technical. I'll send you that listing, and you can take a look to see if your service falls within. But I did make a note of it to look for it before we are done. All right. File a sales tax return. So once we've collected our funds, we put it in a separate sales tax place, then we file our sales tax return. And when it comes to our sales tax return, it is something that the first year, well, if you apply for, we do have to apply for a certificate of authority. When you apply for your certificate of authority with New York State, you're required to file a sales tax return quarterly for the first year. So it's every 3 months, you're gonna have to file a sales tax return. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but it's important to know that we have to file it for the first year. You have to file it quarterly. And then after that, it's gonna depend on how your sales were. If you had a lot of sales, there's certain thresholds. If you meet those thresholds during your first year, then they might change you from being quarterly to monthly. If you had less sales, then they might change you to being annually. Okay. And then that's when we pay our, once you file your sales tax return, that's when you take the funds out of that separate bank account and you pay it to New York State. Alrighty. So now we know how sales tax collection works. As business owners, we are the middle person that's moving the funds from the customer to the IRS. We know we're the middle person, and we also know how the sales tax collection, what's the flow? It goes from the customer all the way up to reporting it on our sales tax return. But before we even start collections, we have to understand and know what businesses should register. I would certainly want to know what, if I need to be a part of that. If you plan to do any of the following in New York State, then you should apply to register. So if you plan to sell tangible personal property or provide certain taxable services, collect state and local sales tax, issue or receive New York State sales tax exemption documents, or operate a hotel or motel or receive amusement charges. If you plan to do any of those 4 items, then you should register. And that typically falls under everyone's type of business, that you're either going to sell something, sell a product, or you are going to provide services. So the just a little bit to add here when it comes to selling personal property. So let's say we are selling, we're selling cupcakes. Or let's say we're selling t-shirts. Let's say we're selling t-shirts and we collect the sales tax from the customer, and then we're planning to give the money to the to New York State. There are certain circumstances where there's someone else who's going to pay sales tax for us. Like if you have to pay someone else sales tax, then if you have to pay someone else sales tax, then if you collected the sales tax and this other person collected sales tax, then you're paying sales tax twice. So that's why it matters if you register, because you'd have to get an exemption document. What is an exemption document? An exemption document is asking New York State to receive a sales tax exemption, basically saying, I don't have to pay sales tax because someone else is doing it for me. Another business is paying sales tax on that same sale that I made. So in all that happens in the sales tax world in New York State is just concerned with collecting sales tax from someone on a sale. But there should not be duplicating. You should not be collecting sales tax multiple times for the same exact sale. Okay? So you'd want to get an exemption document in a case where someone else is paying sales tax, and you don't want to, no one wants to pay double. All right. So why should I register? There are a number of reasons why you should register, but this is the #1 reason why you should register. There are substantial penalties if you do not register. So when it comes to not registering, and if New York State finds out about it, that you have you're doing a business that you should be collecting sales tax and you're not doing it, I'm going to list, you know what, this is a listing of the penalties for late filing and failing to file a return. Now, this is all on New York State's website. Sales and use tax penalties. This was created in 2010. So New York State has not changed their mind when it comes to penalties since then. They laid the groundwork, they laid it down, and they said, look, this is what it is. We're going to, if you fail to file a timely return, it's $50. If you fail to file and it's late by 60 days, then they're going to start charging a percentage. There's 10% and then it goes on and on. But that was just related to failing to file the return. If you fail to collect tax, that's a total different thing. Then they start talking about crimes, and then there's civil penalties. It just goes on and on and on. And then there was a question earlier about the certificate of authority. Do I really need it, or do I really need to have it? Yes, you should still display it even though your home may be your place. If for some reason an order that comes to your house and it's not displayed, then they could charge you a penalty. And then the list just goes on of the penalties. So you definitely want to avoid any penalties when it comes to not filing or not applying for the sales tax return. Okay. So next, what is subject to sales tax? So tangible personal property. Now let me see, I think I have, yes. Tangible personal property unless specifically exempt. So like I stated earlier, it gets really technical about what's exempt and what is not exempt. There are certain things, and I have the listing for our friend earlier who asked what's exempt and what's not exempt. So I will put that in the chat now to everyone. Oh, and there's a question. What if you filed a date for when you pay taxes on your EIN application, but you don't have employees? Do you still have to file payroll taxes? So yes, you should file 0 payroll tax returns until you actually have wages. Okay, so that answers our friend, our business owner, our entrepreneur, her question. Dr. Lorraine Richardson McCrae, I sent you the link directly and I also sent it to everyone. Right, that's in regards to what is exempt and what is not exempt. Tangible personal property means any kind of physical personal property that has a material existence and is any material existence and is perceptible to the human senses. In other words, something you can see and touch. Sales of services are generally exempt from New York State sales tax unless it's specifically taxable. So I just sent you guys the link. You can review. You're welcome, Dr. Lorraine. You can review and see if it applies to you, what your business is, but you'll see within there, there's certain, and let me bring it on the screen here, certain food and drinks. So it's very, very specific on what food and what drink is taxable. You'll have to dig deeper within these publications to figure out if what you're doing is taxable or not. Or you can speak to an accountant or a sales tax expert for them to just lay it all out for you. Because if you notice when you click on it, it just ends up being more stuff to read. I wish I could to emphasize, I would emphasize the most as far as business ideas and all businesses as a whole. You want to focus on your business idea and trying to get that off of the ground. But when it comes to all of the specific extra items, like what's taxable for sales tax purposes and what's not, just a lot of legal matters. It's not just accounting that I'm saying this. If it comes to legal matters, if it comes to marketing, yes, you can do some posting on your own, but you might want to also speak to someone that has experience in this area. And I think there's Natalie who works at EAC who can help you or just give you some sort of a background to get yourself started with things. But I would not recommend reading through all the publications to determine whether or not, you know, certain things apply to you. Okay. So, moving on, we'll talk a little bit about what's subject to sales tax and what's not subject to sales tax. Now, I have a few items that are listed here. And I will specify what items, just these few items relate to and do not relate to. So I've pulled some of these items from those listing of items just so that we can cover for our conversation purposes. So antique sales is something that is taxable. Landscaping, believe it or not. Now, between me and you, I'm not sure how many people are actually paying for landscaping. I've never actually audited it, but it is one of those items that are taxable. Landscaping. Event parking. Contracting. Small engine repair. And craft businesses. So if you have a craft business, you technically should be charging sales tax. The law says that you should be charging sales tax unless you meet a specific exemption, then it would be sales tax, subject to sales tax. So some items that are not subject to sales tax would include the daycare centers. If you have a daycare center, you shouldn't be charging sales tax to your little people's parents for the collection of their tuition or their childcare fees. Selling baked goods. So this one, I feel like it touches a lot of people who have businesses in the food industry. If you are selling baked goods, then it is not subject to sales tax. But you do have to dig deeper or contact someone to see if your specific baked good if it falls within the lines. Because sometimes if you have if you purchase it from someone else, if someone else baked it and you didn't bake it, like there's different rules when it comes to this specific area. So just take a look out for that. You don't want to over collect sales tax and you don't want to under collect. So you want to be informed on what's supposed to happen. So accounting offices and real estate offices do not have a need or do not have a requirement to file sales tax returns. When should an application be filed? So when it comes to the application for a sales tax, when should we apply? Does anyone want to jump in and make an educated guess or provide any information on when you think it'll be?
We actually have a question asking if cleaning services are subject to sales tax.
So cleaning services, I would actually have to research that further myself. I actually have not come across a business that has, let me see if I could take a quick look. That has done that specific service. So I just looked this up very quickly. I would recommend more than my 15-second research, but just based on what I found, if you are preparing interior cleaning and maintenance services, you would have to collect sales tax. Sales tax is imposed. Yes. And interior cleaning and maintenance services include ordinary janitorial services such as dusting, furniture, those sorts of things. But again, this is based on my 15 seconds of research. I am giving you the short answer that I just found, but I don't want to misinform you, Claudia. Okay. But it does look like you do have to collect sales tax. You're welcome. Okay, so when it comes to when you should apply at least 20 days before you begin doing business. Now, what does doing business mean? Doing business entails making taxable sales, providing taxable services within New York State, and issuing or accepting New York State exemption documents. You should do it with at least within 20 days, because New York State has their process that they have to follow. Their, you would submit the application, but they have to go through a process, and you want to make sure they estimate that it'll be 20 days. So just make sure you get it done before then. So it's just some planning when it comes to having a business. You want to make sure that you plan at least to say, all right, I need to wait 30 days before I just wanted to check something out, because I do have, yes, I have something for you guys later that I want to give you. So when it comes to planning, just make sure that you plan accordingly to include at least 20 days before you get started. All right, so sales tax, who can apply? This is very similar to the EIN conversation that we had earlier. The responsible party is the person who is going to have to apply for the sales tax. All right, and where do I register? New York State would like you to register online. There used to be an application, and there is a paper application, but they really are pushing for you to do it online. And I have the website for you guys. Here is the website for the ability to apply online. And just gonna leave that there. Again, when it comes to sales tax is the cream of the crop when it comes to New York State and collections. So it's right on the homepage. If you go on the homepage, www.tax.ny.gov, and it's like in the middle of the screen, you just click register for sales tax, and it's located under popular services. And that's where you would find the ability to do it. So here, this is the sales tax application. So this is very similar to what we did with the EIN. When you do it online, there will be it's not going to ask you all these questions at one time. It'll be one question or a couple of questions or sections at a time. So going through this application, the first section is starting your business or updating its status. So in here, we would list what is starting a business, we're restarting a prior business. You make the selection of what applies to you within these parameters. Adding a location. So let's say we are in Suffolk County when it comes to our class. We go to the Suffolk Community College. So Suffolk has its own sales tax, and it's different from New York City. So let's say you add a New York City location. That has a totally different sales tax rate because it's a locality. So we would be adding a location. So it can be not only New York State, but there's different rates as far as New York State. There's a different rate for Suffolk County and a different rate for Nassau. So make sure that when you're expanding, and I hope you all would expand as your business, you take your business idea up to the next level, expand to where you'd like it to be. But make sure that as you expand, that you still remain compliant with your location information for sales tax. Next is your business identification section, where we list the name, and all of this information is a bit self-explanatory, but your email address. All of this information here is also requested on their website. Then when it comes to your type of entity, you would select what type of entity you have here and enter the date you will begin services and sales, as far as sales, begin business in New York State for sales tax purposes. So this here, I just want to note, this is very similar to what I was saying with employees earlier. New York State is going to hold you, or they're going to look for your sales tax return based on what you put here. And they let you know that on the form. You must file your first sales tax return for the filing period that includes this date. You must file even if you change your plans and begin business at a later date, or if you do not make any taxable sales during the filing period. If you do not file a return for this period, you will automatically receive a bill which is subject to penalties and interest. So they are clear that this date matters. It will start the process as far as their requirements when they are looking for your filings. So make sure that when you list it, it's what you expect. And one thing with that date, you know, and starting a business, we have timelines. As business owners, I want to get this going. I want it up before July 1st, and here we are on the 20th. It's very, you want to have a robust timeline, and you want to make sure that you stay motivated and you have a great team of people who are dealing with you and your business. But make sure that you consider some shortfalls, because unfortunately there may be some shortfalls, or there's just a learning curve of certain things. So just add in a couple of extra days in there just to give yourself some grace. So if, let's say you do want to start the business on July 1st and we're at the 20th, if you look at all the things that's on your to-do list, then just maybe add a couple extra days and maybe give it till like July 15th, just to make sure that you can get through everything on your to-do list, and then just delay sales a bit. But try to make that as realistic as possible. Temporary vendors. You should register as a temporary vendor if your business is seasonal and you do not expect to make taxable sales for more than 2 consecutive sales tax quarters. So this temporary vendors can apply to, I spoke to someone recently and she was doing, selling food at summer festivals. So she was really just doing it for like June through August. And then after that time period, she's not doing anything because she's just doing it like a food truck situation during the summertime. So in that case, she would be considered a temporary vendor, but she would still have to register because she is seasonal and is for less than 2 consecutive tax quarters. And then as we continue down, we will separate sales tax. You have to separate sales tax for each location, like we talked about. If we have a location in Suffolk County and a location in New York City, then that would be 2 separate locations. And then as we move on, you have to list a brief description. And I should note that this description should match your EIN application that we talked about earlier. So don't have your EIN application contain one thing you're doing cupcake sales on the EIN and application, and then on your New York State application, you're selling houses. 2 different things. Just make sure that they match, because at some point they can, these two, the IRS EIN application and New York State, they can cross-reference and say, well, this doesn't make sense. These two are not, this 2 different businesses. So make sure that you're, as they say, as they list on the form, please be specific. And also make sure that it matches that EIN application, which also remember to print out that EIN application before you submit it. Just keep that within your files, and that's your go-to document. Now, the NAICS code, this is a required code. If you go to, there's a publication. If you go to this publication, you'll be able to see a listing of what those codes are. And there's also a website where you can see what the codes are and see if what your business falls in. It's basically the New York State's way of figuring out, and I'll put the website within the chat also. That's where you get the code. I just put it within the chat. Okay. And then as you go through, we also have here, make sure that when it comes to 19 and 20, that you list the correct amounts. Because we don't want to, if you list here that your annual sales are $22 million and you don't file a sales tax return, New York State is going to look for a sales tax return for this amount, and they will estimate your sales tax based on this number. So make sure that you know, or you estimate in a range that is realistic for your business. Again, we do not want to overpay if we don't have to. Okay. And then as we continue down, it acts as additional information based on your sales proprietor, your type of business. You would complete section E if you have if you're a sole proprietor. Section F if you're a corporation. And section G if you're a partnership. The information is specific to your business. It's basically asking you for like the partner's information and the person who's responsible, how the ownership is going to be distributed, those sorts of things. So those sections are it's self-explanatory in there. Then we have section H, which talks about the business background. So it's just asking some questions about the business. This helps them with their process as far as evaluating the business. And then the business associations. So section I relates to, it might not relate to any of our entrepreneurs on tonight. It's asking if you're a franchisee. So you would more than likely be able to skip the business association section. That was section I. When it comes to section J, this is asking for information in regards to a business entity or your business activity. So if you have a business that needs certain licensing, such as the liquor, you need a liquor license a lot of the time. If you're going to be issuing lotto, a DMV facility number, sales of goods and services, certain things such as cigarettes and other tobacco products. It breaks down anything that could relate to your business, but this area, section J, is very specific. Section K, it relates to the responsible party. So again, the responsible party is more than likely you. And in that section, you would list some personal questions. So they do get a little detailed in saying, will this person be actively involved in the business? Are you going to be signing checks? So they get a little bit into your business, the details of your business when it comes to the responsible party and what their interaction is really in the nitty-gritty, the day-to-day of the business. And then we have the signature. So you just sign the document and that's it. Once you sign the document, signing it online is different than the paper document. It's pretty much you review it, review all the information that's in there. Make sure you double check everything that you have in there that it matches what you intended to put, again, print that section, save it, and then you can then move forward with your application process and confirm your application is correct, and then they'll review it. Now, when it comes to how long it takes, so New York State and the IRS their timelines are different when it comes to these two topics. For the IRS, when it came to the EIN, if you remember, it was instantly you get your number. But as far as New York State is concerned, in recent times, as of last week, they were 5 days behind. So they say that you should give them 20 days. That gives them some grace to be able to go through the applications if they have an abundance of applications. But they are running about 5 business days as far as processing for applications. So then the next thing is, well, what's next? You know, now what do? We have our social security numbers. We have, we have our EIN and we have our sales tax. What do we do now that we've received our sales tax certificate of authority? What happens? So your tasks are in moving forward are as listed. File your sales tax returns timely. Establish a reminder system to follow the New York State filing date schedule. Establish a segregated bank account for sales tax. And display your certificate of authority. Lastly, you want to keep accurate records. So we had talked earlier about making sure that you separate your business from personal. Always make sure that you do that. That's a part of the keeping accurate records portion of this. The New York State Department of Taxation, they can come in and say, we need to review your books. And you don't want them to review more than they need to. You don't want them to review less, because then they can overestimate some things. So we want to make sure that we keep our items separate. So one thing I would like to give you guys is, and I'll put it in the chat. Let me see if I can get the actual link for you. So when it comes to staying organized, I'm gonna put, here we go. This is the link. When it comes to staying organized, the filing dates, 2024 tax filing dates are all listed in that link that I just sent you. And what they do is they list by date what needs to be filed, including the sales tax returns. So let's see where we are. Today is June 20th. So today is the due date to have filed any quarterly tax returns as well as any monthly tax returns. You have until midnight if you need to file. And then it just lists everything else out. So I found this to be very helpful for new and old business owners, because this is a go-to for New York State as far as the calendar is concerned. Okay. Now, at this portion of the webinar, I'd just like to give a little encouragement to everyone, because I know businesses are hard. Setting up a business is hard. If you decide that you're going to do only the things you know are going to work, you're going to leave a lot of opportunity on the table. So in those uncomfortable areas of business ownership, often produce growth. This picture represents tough circumstances. This is a concrete ground, but within the picture, you'll notice there's a crack and there's dirt. So there's still a chance of growth. And this flower was able to grow from the crack. Okay. So just a little bit of encouragement. And that was, those are not my words. That came from Jeff. He is the owner of Amazon. Then we have Warren Buffett, who says, we haven't really faced anything that quite resembles this problem, but we face tougher problems. The American miracle, the American magic has always prevailed, and it will do so again. I bring him up because he definitely is someone that has shown entrepreneurship. He, for a long time, was driving the same car that he first started out with. So he had very humble beginnings, but kept those humble beginnings going on. I first started as a bank teller, and I would work in the drive-through portion of the business. So I would see people pulling up in their cars, and I got to see their bank accounts also. And I have to say that a lot of the people who had the nicer cars had the lower bank balances. And it was in the reverse when it came to the hoopties, for lack of a better word. People who didn't have nicer cars, their bank balances were higher. So it's just a matter of where you find your treasure, where you want to spend. But just keep that in mind when it comes to your business. Just make sure that you spend so that you can make it in the long term. And lastly, when uncertainty keeps you up at night, then close your eyes and think of something that is certain. It's hard, yes, to keep a business going. It's hard to get a business up and running, but at the same point, you can get it done. There are people who struggled for a long time, and then it just took to keep pushing in order for that business to be successful. So I would hope that you all would be able to push through and be able to become as successful as you want your business to be. I've concluded my portion of the presentation, but if there's anyone who has any questions, we could certainly go over those items. I sent the exemption, I sent pretty much all the links that we were, that came up earlier. There was the one question I answered it about the sole proprietorship changing. So you would, in regards to the sales tax, that was Dr. Lorraine. When it came to the sales tax, you would change your entity. When it comes to your EIN, you would have to contact the IRS and let them know that you want to change your type of entity. Also, just a question for Dr. Lorraine, how did you apply? How did you get your corporate kit? What was the avenue that you went through in order to obtain that? Because there may be some recourse that you may be able to obtain from them directly.
I ordered my corporate kit through Bloomberg.
Okay. So, and how long ago was this?
I just received it.
So okay, so yeah, everything is very fresh. So what you could do, you can, when you said that you switched from a sole proprietorship, what did you do in order to make that change? When you say you switched, was it a decision that you made, or did you do any specific filings?
No, I did the filings already. So I received all of the paperwork from the Department of State, the corporations. So I did all of the filings and everything. I received it.
Okay, so you've already done all of your documentation changes. You're just more concerned about just general advice for
General, yes, I have my EIN number for the S corp.
Okay, so with the S corporation, and I'll go into detail on that on Saturday, but the S corporation is a separate entity from yourself. It gives you the ability to not have liability as a person. You're separate from your business, so if your business is sued, it stops at the business. It does not come to you personally. When it comes to entrepreneurship, you definitely want to keep your separate, everything separate, your business and personal finances, open up a business credit card, and this is for everyone. Open up a business credit card so you can get your business credit going. That could help you later on when you want, if you want to obtain a loan. If you are a minority, you should speak to Kenya. I know she does a lot of the webinars when it comes to the certification. If that's an area that you like to go into, you can apply for that. And then what type of business do you have, Dr. Lorraine?
I have a resources and consultation corporation, so it's a service.
Okay. Yeah, so just get the word out as far as what type of service that you offer. You can try to get referrals from current clients and try to get a good resource of referral, a good source of recommendation so that you can build your stream of income, which is based on your clients, and just kind of push forward it with referrals and continuous services. That would be my recommendation. And Kenya is here tonight. She typed in the chat, hello. So, I know she does a lot with the minority certification, business owners, minority business and women certifications. So, good luck. And also, so I listed my telephone number and my email address. You can reach out to me if you have any questions, if you have any need for accounting services. Again, nothing too big or too small. We can help with tax services. We can help with accounting services. We can help with pretty much anything with accounting related. And if we can't help you with anything with accounting, something that's out of our realm, then we can refer you to someone that can hopefully be helpful. We want you guys to win and to expand and to make your business idea to come to life. So, and Jennifer has listed the telephone number as well as the email address within the chat for the EAC Center. She is the project coordinator. All right, and I think I've answered everyone's questions. And if you have any further questions besides what we've covered tonight, you can always reach out to me. But just if I couldn't emphasize enough 2 points, my main 2 points that I can drive home to you are to always make sure that you keep your personal separate from your business. That's a point that I can't drive home enough. And then the other point that I don't think I could drive home enough is to seek out people who can help you make your business happen and not waste time in areas trying to research something and it's going to pull you away from your business idea. So Dr. Lorraine and Claudia, Gracia, Latoya, Shayna, and Susie, thank you all for coming tonight. I hope that your business becomes exactly what you want it to be. All right. Thank you all so much. Jennifer, is there anything else that you would like me to do?
No, thank you so much for your presentation, Latasha. As you mentioned, the office number and email are in the chat. So if anyone has any questions or they would like to reach out to you or even want to follow up with you on our in-person workshop on Saturday, they can definitely reach out to me and I will help them register for that. And I appreciate all of the great information you had tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you for having me, Jennifer. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you everybody for staying on. I know we did run a little past, but the information was definitely worth it. I hope everybody has a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Have a good night.